Right, party at the Moon Tower. Hey everybody, JMac here. Part 2 of the Laravel 12 hacks. I did a little bit on this policy from last time. We were talking about streamlining policies last time, and I did a little bit of work on it, gave it some thought, answered some questions in the chats and so forth. I still need to finish that PR, so I'm hoping to do that probably tomorrow. There was another PR I kind of messed with. And then, I know the team was at Laracon EU, so not a lot of activities and PRs right now anyway. But with Laravel 12 being announced with a release date of February 24th, I need to get that in there because I do think the policy one is a breaking change. There were 2 other things I want to work on. That's what I want to focus on today, and I've given these some thought off stream as well. So let me bring everybody up to speed on kind of my thought on what what we have left to do here, so to speak. First, let's jump down to this one. So we figured out the streamline policy things. I'm just gonna remove it to get rid of some noise. These are the 2 I want to focus on today. First, let's go down here and talk about this one. If you joined me last week, we kind of ended talking about what I wanted to do here, but let's recap it as well. I always thought it would be cool. I remember mentioning this to Taylor at like a conference, gosh, probably like 8 years ago now, and I said like, oh, it'd be so cool if you could just return the status code, like when you were working on APIs, if you could just return the status code here of like 409 or 201 if for created or whatever. And I've done a couple PRs with status codes. Well, sorry, let me back up. Right now, if you were to do this would just return a string in the body of 409. It would not be treated as a status code. So there's a bit of nuance here, and I've done a few PRs relating to status things, and if I've learned anything, it's people have the craziest amount of input on status codes. Despite Laravel being a web framework at heart, if you do anything with status codes, there is like a huge rift. it's very, very polarized on if people think this is good or they hate it. It's like love-hate. It's very extreme. So I don't, even though I would probably write my code this way, I don't think this would land in the framework. I think this has a better chance, again, based on what I know. This has a better chance of getting in. An enum that has kind of a human readable, in keeping with the bit here, this would be like, conflict. Let's change this to 409. So all this code in my theoretical Laravel 12 allowing you to return raw integer status codes directly from a controller, these 3 would effectively be equivalent. Now, this HTTP status thing, I think, would maybe bridge that gap between the 2 extremes I'm kind of joking about. That a balance of readability, encapsulation of the name of the thing instead of like this raw HTTP code being returned. So this is an option. The thing is, this is not a breaking change. This would be a brand new enum that would be sniffed out deep in the controller response land inside of Laravel. But as a brand new bit of code, as a brand new enum value, this is technically not a breaking change. It would just be a new introduction of a new feature that has no breaking compatibility. It wouldn't check for like a status code or anything. This would be a breaking change. You could right now be returning 409 or some integer value, and again, that is a string in the body of the response. That comes across as a string even though it's an integer here in code. So this would be a breaking change if this were submitted. I don't think that has a very good chance of getting into Laravel 12 personally. I don't think it has a good chance of being merged. However, that's the code I would write. If I'm writing this, I may as well just write a more responsive bit here or more human readable here. I don't like I don't like constants, class constants, or enums. I like fluent code. That doesn't mean I don't use those things. It just means this doesn't look as pretty as these other two. Like if I were ranking these, like it would be this, this, and then this. That's the order at which I would write this code. If all things were available in the framework, this is the way I would prefer to write it. This is a web framework. 409 means something to me. As a web developer, as an HTTP response from a controller, that means something to me. That is enough. That is the way I would want to write my code. Submitting this is just not, it doesn't scratch my own itch, right? It's not as cool, I don't think. I would rather come back to this area. And in fact, I would rather have something along the lines of like, you know, this, which I did PR a few weeks back, and that got rejected. So I think what I would really do is probably just go put that in a package. That would be what I would do with my time personally. I don't think this has a lot of value. I just don't. And even if it did, it's not a breaking change. So long story short, I'm going to cancel this idea here. I'm not going to work on that. It's not time well spent for me. I think this is just going to be a lot of noise on a PR, which honestly just kind of like crushes my soul. So I don't really want to go down that road, and I don't have my heart in this personally. And again, not a breaking change. So I'm going to leave all that alone. If somebody else wants to carry that torch or bear the burden, great. This one, on the other hand, I will allow myself to get soul crushed on. I believe in this change. I want to see this happen in the framework in some capacity. I've tried it before. It got closed. The PR had a lot of noise on it, but I think there's still something here, and I want to see if there needs to be any change to get this into Laravel 12. Again, I may or may not PR this, but again, let's spike on this one. Let's focus. Let's put today's focus into this, I think, is what I want to do here. So let's go back and revisit. Let's go back and revisit this bit here. This is the whole fillable versus guarded dance. What I would love to see, this is the code I would love to see. I would love to be able to just pass create. This is a little bit dense. Let's take off. Let's just demonstrate something like model. Or user here. User. I did that for the completion, but let's just do user force fill. Okay, so these two in a potential Laravel 12 world, these two would be equivalent. So what this allows, what I'm proposing here, is the ability of when you're using a form request with a validated object, you can pass that directly into the create, and because it received a safe object, it would automatically bypass the fillable versus guarded dance. It would effectively do what we're doing here, which is force filling it with the data from the form request, which has been validated, force fill it into the object. Don't worry about fillable. Don't worry about guarded. Just fill the values. They're safe. I'm a developer. I know what I'm doing. Just do it. Do it, Laravel, and then create it, right? So I could do this right now if you want. But I think from these are all about shorthands. This is all about little shorthand things, little quality of life improvements in potentially Laravel 12. I would love to just be able to do this. I don't want to have to do this like force fill and casting this back down to an array and getting all the values or merging it with other stuff or all this other crap. I just want to be able to like take this safe object, which I've already pre-validated, and like allow it to be saved to the database. I don't want to fill in fillable or guarded or any of that stuff. So again, these lines look, you might think, okay, well, this isn't a lot of work here, but you have to realize also what you're saving underneath. If you go down into the model, you're also saving yourself from these types of things. So there's much more code behind something like this in modern Laravel. You're having to fill out, fillable, or even if you just say guarded empty array, like you're still having to put code in multiple spots. This single line, this is not an apples to apples comparison. This is apples and oranges. These oranges exist. This code is sprinkled in a lot of places of the application, whereas this is all it right here. This is everything. This is all the code you would have to write. This, you still have to go do fillable or guarded somewhere in your models. This, you would not. So all the code you need is right here, whereas this has hidden code underneath in the model. So it's not, it's this you're shorthanding way, way, way more. So again, unfortunately, I've tried to put this in the framework before. I don't think it's gonna land. So what I wanna see is, can I make this work with no changes to the framework by overriding the create method in a model, which means then I could add this thing to a trait, I could put it in a package, I could do some stuff. I don't think I can, because working on create, everything gets array typecast. So I don't think I can, everything has an array type hint in the attributes parameter. So I think even if I wanted to do this, I would still need to probably go remove some type hints from some methods to be able to safely pass a different object without getting a PHP error. So that's what I want to kind of go prove. So we've set all this up now. Let's uncomment that. Let's get rid of our little comment here. Let's actually turn this into a form request. Let's draw out a test. Let's see how deep down the rabbit hole I have to go to kind of make that work. Again, I don't think I'll end up PRing this because, you know, it got crushed last time. But I think this is still something I want to do, and what I want to find out is, do I need to at least remove a type hint to be able to do this effectively? And I think that I would, and that would be the thing I would PR. I would just loosen a type hint somewhere to say, hey, if this is removed, this opens the door to being able to do other things. It's just a type hint. You know, you can, it's still in this code, it still gets removed as an array. Or you probably don't even have to, by like the covariance, what is it? It's like covariance and coalescence. I think covariance allows a subclass to strengthen a type. So I could say array or safe object. I could do like a union type. Anyway, that's what I want to find out. Let's go find all this out. PHP artist, enough talk. Make request user update request. Okay, user update is created. Let's call this user update request. It's now a request object. Safe is now good to go. Let's go jump in here. Let's do something real simple. What does our user have on it? Name. All right. So let's just say name is required. I think, let's just go ahead and, we don't need it, but let's just do arrays. And we'll say email, and it's an email, and we'll close that out. Okay, simple enough. Let's get rid of this. I don't know why this comes out of the box as false, but I guess it's better to be secure than insecure. Okay, so let's bring this across. This isn't going to work right now. I want to go in here. Let's take out name and email from fillable. Nothing is fillable, right? Let's just remove all fillable. Let's go back to our example test. Relative where, okay, let's change this. I'm not going to act as a user anymore. Let's change this to post, and let's send it in some data. Let's send it in name is name, and this will be email, and let's change this to with faker, name equals this, faker, name, and we'll do email. Okay, so there's our email and emails. That's our data. So we should have assert status 200. Let's do assert status 201 just to play around with what we were talking about earlier. And then what I would want to do is, let's say this assert database has on users kind of the same thing, right? It has a user, whoops, with this payload effectively, right? Cool. Okay, so this is a good enough test. We should be able to run this. We'll need to change this to be post, right? So we'll just post to the home page. Okay, let's run this. I would kind of expect it to explode, to be honest. Vendor bin PHP unit. Where are you? Let's just take this specific test. And we'll say filter that. Okay, I definitely expect this to fail. Port. Oh, I switched to Postgres. What was I doing there? PHP unit. I was testing something else the other day. Let's bring this back to life. Format that. Run this again. This should now go against that. Okay, create. Create must be type of array. Perfect. That's exactly kind of what we expected. Just to prove that this passes, let's close these other ones down. And let's uncomment this and put this back. This should pass. I would expect to see green here. Even this code is what you would have to write today to do what I want to do, right? I'm the developer, force fill it with an array of safe data that came from the form request that I've cast down to an array and then effectively call create. This should pass, I would think. It did not. Force fill cannot be called statically. Okay. Force fill cannot be called statically. It's a non-static method. Can you call? What do you do? New? Undefined method new. Is there like make or is it new instance? Instance? New instance cannot be called statically. Okay, what is it here? No, there's a way to make a model. How do you make a new model? You know what? We make a new model this way. New user. There you go. Integrity constraint violation. User name, not null. Okay. Didn't I fill it in? Force fill. What's in this? Maybe this doesn't have what I expect it to have. Dump that. That should be good. Name and name, right? Isn't it called name? Force fill is maybe not doing what I expect it to do. What does force fill do? Unguard, fill the attributes. Yeah, unguard it. It's not guarded. Fill the attributes. Does this not work the way I expect? Oh, do you have to then call save? I bet you then call save. Constraint failed. User password. Okay, the user password must be something. Okay, fine. Let's see here. Let's just change. This part doesn't really matter for the point I'm making. So let's just say this is nullable. Let's just get past this. Okay. Now we need a 201 response. Let's finish out our test and then let's go back. So now we'll say, let's get rid of that. So let's say return response status 201 created, right? Nope. Oh, it's not status. What is it? Response. Oh, it's no content 201. There we go. Okay, let's review. Couple things. One, you got to have a password, so we changed our migration to, we don't care about it. We're just trying to force fill some properties into a model. Forget that it's a user. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to have to make a bunch of different models to demonstrate that this works. So here's the code you would have to write to kind of do what I want to do, which again proves my point. It's very ugly. Like, I don't want to have to write that to do a simple thing. Like, I just want to be able to do create. Like, if I want to achieve as a developer, if I want to assume responsibility and put this, just fill it in, like this is basically what I have to do. Or I have to go and like unguard all of my models, but I would still need to do all here, right? Like let's demonstrate this as well, that it works. You could do this, which isn't so bad. It's not so bad. This is probably what you would do. But you still, again, for the underlying code, you still have to go into each and every models because they're not unguarded by default, and you would have to change this to guarded blank. And I think this would still pass. Oh, sorry. I didn't comment out my second save. There we go. This should still pass, and it does. Okay, so you have to do this. But again, to the point of the apples oranges thing earlier, I have code in multiple places. I not only have to turn this into an array, I then have to make sure that every model ever in my application, when I make it, I have to unguard it. And to me, there might be other operations that I want to do, such as update or save things in line, where I do want things to be guarded. So again, I want the simplicity of, I want a little separation of the responsibilities here. I want an option to be able to say, again, to say, I can create this object. If I pass it in safe data, then I am taking responsibility. That is the indication to the framework, the fact that this received a safe validated object. Validated input, technically, is the object. Don't worry about fillable, guarded, any of that stuff. It's okay. I'm giving you a safe object. Treat it as such and do the thing, do the operation, do the create. Okay, so let's go back here. This fails because this doesn't allow you to take an array in Builder. It's actually doing it in Builder, okay? So this is what I was worried about. To make this work, might need to be able to remove a type hint. But instead of removing a type hint, what I want to see is can I, again, I don't think you can call, you have to call create statically. So if I put a public static create method here, you need function. If I put a public static create method here and just accepted attributes, I just want to dump the attributes here. Let's see if this gets the validated input object. Can I overwrite it in this capacity? And I can. See, I get validated input. There's my input. So what I would effectively do to make this work, what I would effectively do is I would have to override create. Okay. Can I then unguard it and call parent create, much like force fill was doing, right? We could just make a shorthand for what I was doing before, a new static instance, force fill it, call save, right? We could do that. But can I pass this through to the builders? Can I pass this through to the builders create unguarded? That would be the simplest thing to do. Because again, it's just a shorthand. So can I say this, do you get query? Is there builder? Is there like a builder in here? There's not. See, I don't think I have access to, and I don't have this because it's static, so that's not going to work. I think what you would have to do is say new instance force fill. Yeah, we would just return new instance static. Can you say static new instance? Yeah, there it is. Static new instance, no attributes, force fill, attributes, say, or all, all, and then we save it. But that doesn't behave the way you would expect. If we go down and look at save, yeah, query, new model query. Save returns save, but I think if we go higher up here, you would see that I think tap is used. the point I want to make is that create returns you the instance of the model, whereas this would not. This would return true or false. So there's not really feature parity yet. We'll come back to that. Let's just do this now and see if this actually ends up working, right? So, and then just to push this on, this is validated input. Yeah. So we'll typecast it our way. See if PHP is okay with that. New instance cannot be called statically. What? Why did you even do that then? What is the static method for making this? There's a static method, right? Is it just new? You just new one up? I thought they had a cooler way than to new one up. Whatever. We're just going to new it up. Again, I'm not necessarily PRing this. So we'll just say new static, force fill it, save it. That returns true or false. This should work. This passes. What doesn't pass here is, again, create the other way returns true, and this one returns false, right? Or sorry, create the other way returns the model instance. This one returns true or false. So again, not necessarily feature parity there. So we'll have to clean that up. Let's just make sure this still works. Or no, of course that's not going to work. How does that... We need to figure out how create works currently. I think it's worth exploring that path for a second. Because here's the deal. If I don't think I need to change. I don't think this is going to require any kind of breaking change or even a PR to the framework. Again, I'm not gonna push this till it's a little more thought out. Again, 3 weeks before a major release, they're not going to merge this. I just know it's not going to make it in. So I'm not even going to try to PR it. But what I would like to do, I like this feature. I would like to be able to put this in a package that I use or a trait that I can add to my models, and I'm able to do this. But I don't want to break the other behavior. If I pass this thing in array, I need it to still go through the normal create flow, right? So let's do this. Let's go see how the normal create flow flows. And then we'll kind of be able to fill in the blanks here on this method, right? So let's spend another 10 minutes or so and see if we can get this all the way. So what I want to do is uncomment this, put this back. We know this was working before. But now it's underlined. Already an example of a problem here. This is underlined because I've overridden create. So I can fix that by saying array or this. That underline should now go away. It does. But I'm going to get a failure, I would think. Yeah. Call to undefined function member all on an array. So what we need is to basically say something like if is array attributes, then call normal flow, right? Yeah, exactly. Else call the other builder. So we just need to figure out how can I now make that call, and to do that we need to understand how the model works currently. So I'm gonna comment out our method, and we need to go down deep into Laravel's model, because what it is if you look, there's no create method on the model itself. You only get create inside of Eloquence builder. So something ends up calling the builder. So my guess is that there's like a static, I think there's like a call static in here. No. Where's the static? When a method gets called statically on a model, there's a magic method that gets called and I think automatically creates a new instance. I just need to find that. I thought it was call or call static, but it's not. Let's see here. Forward calls to new query. Here you go. Okay, here it is. Call static. Yeah, okay. So it makes a new static and then it calls the method. So to demonstrate this, I think I'm going to edit this file. I'm going to, whoa, that's not typing. Wow. Dump method. Yeah, forwards calls to trait. Yeah, possibly. I think we're going to see here create. There you go. Cool. So here it is. So we got in here with create. This calls new static, which then calls create, which is not on here, which then magically calls this method of create, which calls the new query, which forwards calls to the new query builder with the methods and parameters. So that ultimately passes it through. Okay, so either way we're making new static. So what we effectively need to do is this public? It's protected, but that's okay. It's in trait forward calls. Yes, thank you, chat. Okay, so if we take this back out, no matter what, we're going to make an instance. We're going to say new static. Boom. All right. If it's that, then we would say instance forward calls to create with attributes, right? Or its method name, sorry. Forward calls to, what did that do? Was it new query? Oh crap, where was I? Forward calls to, okay, this new query. Do we need to forward calls that way? We would just say this new query create. There's no reason to, yeah, there's no reason to forward calls to. We would just say instance new query create attributes. There you go. There it is. Cool. Okay, that satisfies that. Otherwise, we then say instance force fill save, and now we have a chance to return this instance. But will that instance have the ID saved? Will the ID column be filled in on that instance? I don't know. I think so. I think it'll just work. Let's find out. So let's run this. This should just work. Nope, it didn't. Oh, add fill. Okay, sorry. So that, again, apples to oranges comparison. We still have to go back if we want to do this and make this guarded. But this should work now. Ah, where are you? Did I still leave all in there? Oh, duh. Else. This is just return. This just returns it because it gives us the instance back. There you go. That passes. Okay, so here's the test I want to do. Let's save this as user. And instead in the response, we're going to return user ID. All right. So to update our test to prove this, where did my test go? Where's my example test? There it is. All right, to prove this, does this return anything? I always forget. No. Let's query out this user equals user query where. Let's just take this for simplicity. I normally would not write my wheres like this, but in the interest of time, we'll say first or fail the test. All right. We'll still assert status 200, and now we'll assert response assert content is user ID, theoretically. Right? This should pass. Oh, sorry. I changed the status when I didn't mean to. Okay, let's bring our demo ideas back up. We still need to say 201 here for status. created. Ah. Typecasting. It's a string. Okay, sorry. Assert content. We'll just make this all response. Going back to that HTTP status code, all responses are strings. So even if you pass the integer, it's still a string. Okay, let's string that. Okay, we're back to green. Now I want to go back. So we've proven that, of course, create gives you the model instance back. It saves the ID. It saves all the columns, blah, 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 right? Does ours do that? I'm worried that it does not. It definitely won't if we don't save the user. So let's put the user back on it. Does ours now do this? It does. Ah. Feature parity. Okay, cool. So let's go down to our user model. What do we actually have to do here? I can override. I don't need to make any changes to the framework to make what the code that I want to write work. It's just simply override. It's introducing, because the method doesn't exist. Even if it did exist, I would just override it. But the point is, it doesn't exist. It's just a forward static call now, which forwards to the magic method call, which ultimately forwards down to the eloquent builder. I don't need to change anything inside of the framework to make this code work. I can simply do it in my applications because I know what I'm doing. I've worked with Laravel for 10 years, and if I pass create a safe object, I want it to just fucking create the object. I don't want to have to do fillable guarded dances and say force fill and all that stuff myself. I just want to create it, please and thank you, right? So here's the thing. You can do it. You can do it in 11 lines of code, mostly line breaks. You can basically say, make a new instance. If it's past an array, meaning the current Laravel behavior, then we're just going to pass it along the same way Laravel would, directly to the new query create method. Now we could forward the call the way we wanted to, but you know, it's whatever you want. It's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, right? Like it should be equivalent, and we can test that here in a second if we want to. Otherwise, force fill it, use the stuff that Laravel gives me to expand that code the way you would have to write it to make it work. Force fill it, that basically temporarily unguards the model and it calls save. Then I take that instance and I pass it back. So 10 lines of code, I can do what I want. I can wrap this up in probably a trait in a package that you could just simply add to your models, and now you have it. Now, again, I would love if this were just in the framework, because again, you don't need to then go continue to add stuff to your models, right? That's the whole point. I just want to be able to do it with the least amount of friction possible. So I would love it if this were just in the framework. But 3 weeks away from a major release, and given the backlash I had when trying to put this into Laravel 11, I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to try that right now. Maybe for Laravel 13, maybe if this package gets some recognition, gets some use, I can say, hey, Taylor, I've tested this out over here. People seem to like it. It'd be cool if the framework did it, and then he can noodle on it and give it his own touches, right? Give it that Otwell touch, right? So, one last thing. Let's make sure this works the way we think. So let's just put this back here. Our test is passing. Let's go back to green. Let's make a little refactor. So now we're back to the Laravel's original code. Let's go into our user. And then can I just simply call create with the attributes the way you would on kind of in your current code and everything still work? No, it doesn't, because this loops and loops and loops and loops and loops upon itself. Instance create probably ends up calling this, which calls this, which calls this, which calls this, which calls this. So you can't do that. You would either have to call the forward calls to, or call what it was calling directly anyway. I think this is probably the most explicit way to write the code. What I worry about here is if Laravel internally changed the way it called create, my package would then need an update. That's okay. I don't think Laravel's going to change create to the point. I don't think Laravel's going to change create anytime soon. But if you try to call the thing statically, it's going to just kind of loop in on itself forever and ever and ever. So, and that's why we kind of need to expand that out to what Laravel would ultimately call instead of it. I think if you did like the forward call to, and then you said, what was this thing? You then have to like still say like instance new query. Like it's all the same. It's kind of stupid to use forward call to. that really just unpacks it for you anyway. So let's go back. Does this still pass? Yes, it does. Does ours still pass? I'm going to wrap this up in a package. I like it. I'd use it. I think this is cool. So there you go. There you have it. So I think the only real thing that I'll end up putting in there is this policy streamline. So if we go back to like user policy, I think there's an opportunity here for this fallback method. It got some good comments on the chat, email, YouTube. So I think I will finish that out probably tomorrow. But otherwise, as much as I like this, there was a lot of noise last time I did a PR for it, and it's a little too close to the major release to kind of get that in there. It's not a very big change, but Eloquent is just such a core thing to the framework. I know the team is very, very strict about the changes they make there. So this is a pretty easy add-on, as we said. This is a 10-line. This could be a 10-line trait you drop into your model, and you're able to like safe creation, right? Or safely create, use safe creation as your trait. There it is, something along those lines. So, and maybe there's an opportunity to look at update and save and some of these other things as well. Update would be another nice one if I could just call update and be able to safely pass it validated input as well. Because the same issue lies there, right? So there you have it. I'll wrap these things up in a package in the coming weeks, probably after Laravel 12. But yeah, I think for now, this is pretty good. So I'm hearing some stuff in the chat. Let's see here. Can you call create on an instance, not statically? If not, this is not feature parity. There is no create method on the model, technically speaking. This is a convention that is used, and I don't think it forwards calls that way based on what we saw earlier. We could test that though. I think earlier we did try like new user force fill, and then we tried to put create down here. And let's just say you pass it nothing. Like, so you're saying something along these lines, I think, kind of. Oh, sorry, that's not right. Let's say force fill all. We're saying, can this work? Does this work? Can you call create in this capacity currently? I don't know. No query results for model. Model not found. Eloquent Builder 665. Is this a real thing? Eloquent Builder 665. Let's go see what this is. If this is in the create method, then maybe there is a problem. 665. That's not right. Where join? 665. Am I not in the Eloquent Builder? I don't think I was in the Eloquent Builder. There it is. $665. First or fail. Oh, that's my test. My test uses first or fail. It's not getting saved. It's not getting saved. Why would it not be getting saved? Are we still unguarded? I'm not sure what we're proving here, to be honest, but I think what you're ultimately asking is, can you do this? Would you write this code? If you already had a user instance, can you write this code, and would our methods still work? The answer seems to be yes. So you can call create as an instance method, not statically. I don't know if there are examples of doing that in the docs or how common that is in a Laravel application. But I think the heart of your question is, does it still work? And it looks like the answer is yes. Our tests still pass. It's interesting that you can't force fill it and then call create. I don't know why that is the case, but again, I don't think that's a common use case in an actual application, so I'm not super worried about it. But that is a little interesting to me that I can't make a new instance, force fill it, and then effectively call create, which in my mind would just ultimately call save. But calling create with an empty array doesn't seem to actually save the data, which is strange to me. It doesn't explode, not in Laravel land. It actually explodes in my test because it just can't find it. But I don't know why. I can't answer that one. But yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I don't think why would you write this code? You know, again, it's like a longhand version of this. So anyway, I think this is good. This was fun. Nothing to change in Laravel though. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining live. I'll see you next week.